Hi, my name is Sarah Ansell, and I'm currently an Executive Fellow at CDFA. I was born and raised in Livermore, California, and I went to UC Berkeley for my undergrad. I majored in political science and society and environment, and I'm really interested in working on climate issues and policy in the state government. So in college, I took a really amazing class called Agroecology with Professor Timothy Bowles. And in that class, we had discussion section on the farm, and we got to learn lots of really cool information about how climate and agriculture were connected. And so I thought that was really interesting when I took that class, and it sparked my interest. And then when I came to the Capitol and I got to interview with different placement offices, that opportunity to work on a new type of climate policy in an area that I wasn't familiar with was really exciting. And I was really open and interested in learning more about agriculture and its role in climate issues. So as an executive fellow, I live a pretty classic 9-to-5 life. Every day I work on a lot of legislative issues. That's mostly what I do now. As issues come up with bills that we might want to request amendments for, or that we might want to have conversations to understand better, I kind of address things as they come up. So when I first started at the Department of Food and Agriculture, I got to work with both of my mentors, first Virginia Jameson on the climate team, and then Carney King on the legislative team. So I started more of the fellowship working on the climate issues, and that was really, really exciting. One of the big projects that I worked on was COP30. And so every year the state sends representatives to the International Climate Conference that they host every year, the United Nations hosts, and Secretary Ross and Virginia went to that conference. And so I got to help with a lot of the background materials, creating the binder, working on talking points, tracking down everything on the schedule, and trying to help them be prepared for that huge international event.
I love the Executive Fellowship Program because it's an opportunity for young people, some at the beginning of their careers, some just out of college, some who have been out in the real world for a while, to get hands-on government and public service experience. And Sarah Ansell was such a blessing to CDFA. She's a delightful young woman. She's obviously very bright, and she has this great can-do attitude. She never says no. Everything's done with a smile, and she does it extremely well.
Sarah is such a bright and curious person. She was always game to learn something new or work on a project that she hadn't worked on before, help out with preparation for events or our climate resilience strategy for California agriculture, or any number of other things. So it's just been really a huge pleasure to work with her and have the really great help on some of what we do here at CDFA.
Sarah's been an absolute pleasure to work. She flags key pieces of different legislation, looks at it from an angle that other people tend to miss. So she's very gifted in her approach to analyzing legislation. She's very thoughtful, very thorough, and really connects dots as well as any professional I've ever met.
And so I really got to step up and learn a lot about the legislative process, being trained in the work that a legislative manager does, and how we build track, and how we assign analyses, and how we edit them and work with other departments and divisions. And I got to learn so much about the legislative process of the state, and particularly how the executive branch is involved in that. One of my most memorable experiences was California Agriculture Day, Ag Day, which happens every year. And one of my big projects was working with ARMA to plan that whole event.
Ag Day at the Capitol is an amazing event that CDFA is able to host in partnership with California Ag in the Classroom and California Women for Ag. Every year, it is a huge undertaking. We could not have done this event without Sarah. We're so grateful to the Executive Fellows Program for making sure that she was able to be here and participate in this event, because she made sure that everything ran ahead of schedule, everyone had what they needed, and it was the best event to date. Probably the most well-attended event we've ever had, even though the weather was less than cooperative.
And that's a huge feat. There's 60 booths, I think our most booths ever, more than 1,000 attendees every year. And we had the secretary speak and the first partner speak, and the rain come down. And so that was a huge event to kind of bring everyone in agriculture together and to share the work that they're doing with the legislature and with the public. And so that was a huge event I got to work on, and that was one of the most memorable for sure. I didn't come from an agriculture background in my family. I had little pieces when I look back of things that connected me to food systems and connected me to agriculture, but I didn't have that background. And so one of the things I'll always remember is all the farm tours that I went on. There's lots of opportunities to see different farms and to see the climate smart ag practices that are being implemented, and to understand the struggles that a lot of farmers in California are facing. And I really am going to remember those trips that I took and the farmers that we spoke to and the experiences that they shared, because I think that that their stories have been the most impactful part of this experience. I think the big piece of advice I give other people considering the Executive Fellowship Program and the Capital Fellows Program as a whole is that you can do it too. You don't need to come from any kind of specific background. If you're dedicated to public service, if you're dedicated to helping people, if you want to learn and grow and contribute to the state, and there's really wonderful opportunities to learn.